Well, let's be real, roller coasters are awesome, but sometimes the hype doesn't quite match the ride experience. So today we're exploring the most overhyped roller coasters in 10 different countries, not to hate on them, but to take a closer look on what works and what doesn't. And please just think of this as a friendly reality check, not a takedown of the different coasters. Yeah, we all know opinions are quite subjective, so you might disagree or agree. And if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like these. Now, coming in as the first country, we got Canada with Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland. Oh well, Leviathan is Canada's first and only giga coaster, and when it opened, it turned heads. At over 300 feet tall with a blistering first drop, it's definitely a powerhouse. But here's the thing, once you're past that big first drop, it kind of levels out. It's fast, but it doesn't have that punchy airtime or relentless pacing that rides like Fury 325 offer. Now don't get me wrong, Leviathan is still one of Canada's best, no doubt, but considering the hype, it can leave thrill seekers wanting a bit more in terms of layout because it's also said to be a bit too short. And now the next country we need to visit is Germany with F.L.Y at Phantasialand. Now listen up, F.L.Y is a technical marvel, the world's first launched flying coaster, and it's integrated into the beautifully immersive Rookburg land. As a themed experience, it's breathtaking, but purely from a ride standpoint, well, it's surprisingly mellow. Well, the launches are gentle and the layout is graceful most of the time, but you still have some intense twist and turns / overbanks, but the rest of the ride isn't that intense. F.L.Y really is an incredible overall package, not just the high thrill experience some may expect based on the visuals alone. And the heavily themed ride area plus the twisted mess of track with head chopper and foot choppers makes up the ride experience. Now the next country we need to visit is Italy, and this is where we got Ice Speed at Mirabilandia. Well, you see, Ice Speed is an intimate launch coaster with a sharp layout and tight transitions. It looks wild and it is intense, but unfortunately that intense and world-class first half is followed up by a lackluster second half. This ride experience is just filled with rapid directional changes and sheer force, and it can come across more as jarring than thrilling for some people. But the main problem this roller coaster has for me is actually the restraints, because you have those old over-the-shoulder restraints by Intamin, and they are digging in your shoulders when you get turned upside down and flipped into airtime moments. Now, if you are expecting something smooth like Maverick, you're completely right, but the restraint system is just awful. It's a great ride, just maybe not for everyone because of those restraints. Ugh. Oh well, the next country we need to travel to is Japan, and this is where we got Steel Dragon 2000 at Nagashima Sparland. Well, you see, Steel Dragon 2000 is a record breaker, the world's longest roller coaster as of now. It's got a huge drop, tons of airtime hills, and a scenic coastal layout. But if you look to your right, you have a huge parking lot, so you could call this the parking lot coaster. And well, Steel Dragon 2000 has a 2-minute chain lift and a layout that feels stretched. The ride doesn't really kick in until the second half. Now this coaster is still a must-do for the record alone, but if you're expecting non-stop intensity, this one is more of a marathon than a sprint. And some people think this ride is awesome still, and other ones leave disappointed. Now coming in as the next country, we got France with Totatis at Parc Asterix. Yeah, I know, this might be a very unpopular pick for France's most overhyped coaster. Well, you see, Totatis is one of the newest coasters in France and built by Intamin. Yes, it's a real crowd pleaser with a swing launch, multiple inversions, and a snappy coaster layout. Yes, there is really a lot going on this coaster, but expectations are just way too high, and in context it can feel just a touch underwhelming on some parts. And hold up, before you people start the rant in the comments below, I still think it's a great aggressive Intamin and a very solid ride, but I still see people hyping Totatis up for being one of the best Intamin coasters in the world, but it really isn't in my opinion, of course, and my opinion is subjective, so you know. This ride is still filled with a few knuckle sandwich moments, but don't expect it to reach your top 5. Now the next country on the list is the Netherlands, and this is where we got Goliath at Walibi Holland. Oh well, Goliath is the tallest roller coaster in the Netherlands, but nowhere near the best. It's tall, smooth, and offers some solid airtime, but it's also been surpassed by newer rides in Europe. So if you have never ever experienced a major hyper or giga coaster, Goliath may feel amazing, but for a seasoned coaster fan, it may come across as a bit dated. Well, you can still call Goliath a great ride, just maybe not the powerhouse its reputation suggests. Now we need to travel all the way down under to Australia with DC Rivals Hypercoaster at Warner Bros. Movie World. And DC Rivals is the best and biggest roller coaster in Australia, and the hype is also real, especially with that optional backwards seat. This ride is glossy, modern, and visually stunning, but the layout isn't as consistently forceful as you would expect. After the first drop, the pacing softens and airtime is hit or miss sometimes. In case you didn't know, DC Rivals Hypercoaster is filled with a large middle section where the ride doesn't really do that much. But for the region it's spectacular, but globally it falls a little short of the elite status, still definitely worth the ride. Coming in next we got the steaming hot country Spain with Dragon Khan at PortAventura. All I can say right here is Dragon Khan is a classic looping coaster by B&M, and when it opened it held the record for the most inversions in the world with 8 total. Oh well, Dragon Khan is 30 years old and it is still one of the most intense coasters in the world with a wild pacing, and it still holds up kind of. Well, you see, this ride has gotten a bit rough, maybe very rough, especially in those first big elements, and modern B&Ms have surpassed it in terms of smoothness and force. Though Dragon Khan is more of a nostalgic thrill now, an icon, not a top tier contender, but it still looks amazing with Shambhala in the background. Now we need to travel over to the United Kingdom where we have the Smiler at Alton Towers. And the Smiler is one of the most famous coasters in the UK, and with 14 inversions it's hard not to be curious. It's intense, it's visually wild, and the theming is distinct and weird. But for some/many people this coaster is a little too much. The ride can be disorientating and its rough patches are noticeable. Now the Smiler is certainly unique, and those record-breaking 14 inversions can be too much for many people because the coaster is not that comfortable to ride. But just go in expecting weird, not perfect. And the final country we need to travel to is Poland, and this is where we got Sadra at Energylandia. Oh well, I already know this opinion is going to be slammed in the comments below, and Sadra is Energylandia's star coaster with Hyperion, a huge RMC with a massive first drop and a high-paced layout. Now listen up, this ride is fantastic, but it's also often labeled as one of the best coasters in the world, and that's where expectations can get tricky. As always, this RMC is very smooth, very fast, but it doesn't have the raw airtime of Steel Vengeance or the chaos of Iron Gwazi in my opinion. But for me, Sadra is still a top tier RMC coaster, just not quite the absolute peak many claim it is. And there you have it, 10 amazing coasters that might ride just a little differently than the hype suggests, and that's okay. Every coaster is someone's favorite. This isn't about tearing down, it's about setting realistic expectations. Now just let me know in the comments below which coaster did I go too soft on or too hard, and what's the most overhyped ride you have ever been on. Now if you really like roller coaster or theme park videos, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And at the end of the day, I'm always gonna say bye bye.